December 10th, 2020 meeting of the Burlington Conservation Commission to order. The first order of business is to read the opening notice. It says pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's March 15th order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Burlington Conservation Commission is being conducted through remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public are permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to or view this meeting while in progress may do so in a number of ways. The first is you can tune in to the BCAT government cable app. You can tune into the BCAT government meetings Facebook live feed, or you can join the meeting even over the phone at 408-418-9388. And the meeting number is 173-001-4949. If you didn't catch that and you would like to also get the same information, you can go to the Town of Burlington calendar, click on today's meeting, and the agenda will be there. And when you open up the agenda for today's meeting, you will see all this information for joining or viewing this meeting. To join the Webex live video conference by video, you can click on the Conservation Commission's meeting page or on the Town of Burlington calendar, and there's a link there as well. I won't read all the stuff in the link. New public hearings open tonight will not be closed so as to allow comments from those unable or to access or might be uncomfortable with this technology. Comments and concerns regarding public hearings should be emailed to conservation@burlington.org before the next meeting, which is January 14th, 2020. Okay. Now we're also next going to do a roll call to see which of the commissioners are here, our associate commissioners. So when I call your name, please say aye or present or here or something like that. John Bernstein.
Here.
Gil Lima.
Here.
Indra Deb.
Here.
Bill Boyven.
Here.
Jennifer O'Riordan. Not here. Ed Loturco. Not here. The chair is present. I'm conducting the meeting at the moment. Larry Cohen. And Associate Commissioner Kent Moffett.
Here.
Thank you, Kent. Good to see you. Conservation Administrator John Keeley.
Here.
Assistant Conservation Administrator Eileen Coleman.
Here.
All right, now when we get to items on the agenda, the first thing you need to do is state your name for the record and who you represent or where you live. As far as, let's see here, is Kay. John, I don't know of anything that has been postponed on the agenda. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, so we have the full agenda here tonight. So all votes by the commission will be by roll call, and I'll have to go through, according to the procedures, I have to go through and call each name quickly, and people will signify by raising aye. The meeting is being recorded, and with that, I think we can get on with the agenda. So after all these preliminaries, item 2 is our citizens' time. Is there anyone on the call, either by phone or by video conference, who would like to say something about something that's not on the agenda? All right, that was item 2. The record should show no one is here for citizens' time. Item 3 is the approval of minutes from the last meeting. Are we in a position to approve the minutes?
Yes, I have a few comments that I've relayed to Eileen, but assuming those are incorporated, that's fine.
There were,
right, could I-
he caught a couple of minor grammatical and spelling things, but the other one, I think we should just mention to you, we're just going to remove the reference to the bylaw being stricter than the EPA permit because it's a bit misleading. So we'll just take the line out.
Right,
Okay.
okay. Okay. Okay. All right. All right, so could I have a motion to approve the minutes of November 12th, 2020?
So moved. Bill?
Second?
Second, Gail.
All right, Dawn, how do you vote on approval of minutes?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
The chair votes yes, 500. That's item 3. Next, we have request for certificate of compliance and possible return of surety, 400 to 600 Summit Ave. This is by the Gutierrez Company, Burlington Wetland Bylaw permit. That's 400 to 600 Summit Drive. All right, someone here for that.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. This is Scott Weiss from the Gutierrez Company, checking that you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Excellent.
Delighted to see you.
Good to see you. As submitted and in front of you is, as you know, the work up at the summit, which is 400, 600 Summit Drive, which is the Millipore Sigma building. Work up there has been completed. The drainage system is fully in place and operational. The vegetation has been fully established now at this point. It's been actually probably more than a year since the work has been complete, and we are seeking a certificate of compliance for that work. It was permitted under the Burlington Wetlands Bylaw. There was no state regulated areas on that project, but all of the work has now been complete, and we are ready to move on to items later in the agenda.
All right, sounds good. John or Eileen, do you have comments on the state of this particular project?
No, so not with the state of the project, but in preparation this evening for the meeting and looking at our draft decision and realizing we were thinking of just transferring the bond for the project that you're voting on tonight to the other one. And I thought it was a very small bond. So I did some research, and it turns out, Scott, that you actually had 2 permits for this project. So the Burlington Wetland Bylaw permit was for putting the excess material out into the canyon and filling in the isolated wetlands. A few months before, that was in 2015. At the end of 2014, there was actually a Burlington Stormwater Erosion and Sedimentation Control permit bylaw for the major project, for the actual construction of 400, 600. So there's 2 permits to issue certificates of compliance for. And unfortunately, you just requested the smaller of the 2, which was the filling of the isolated wetlands and filling in the canyon. So since the other one isn't on the agenda, I would suggest we just schedule that for the next meeting and vote on one tonight and do the other one at the next meeting. But there's no issues on site.
And just a point of clarification, if I may, I understood that there was a certificate of compliance required under the Burlington Wetlands Bylaw. I wasn't, and perhaps this was an oversight on our part, I wasn't fully aware that a certificate of compliance was required for an erosion and sedimentation control permit as well. That's why we didn't apply for that. I might have misread, misinterpreted that.
Yep. It's up to the commission. I mean, you could certainly do both this evening. The project is fine. So the bond for the wetland bylaw permit was $5,000. The bond for the erosion control permit was $15,000.
Okay. And are there any issues relative to compliance with either order?
No.
All right. Okay. Does the commission have any objection to issuing the certificate for both projects? Since the project as a whole was advertised, I'm not sure there's a lot of merit to holding it for this one.
Yeah, I agree with that. If it's, that's the way we planned on doing it, and the fact that it's no problems on site, we might as well get them both done tonight. And I'm
All
not,
right. So,
I'm not averse to rolling that over either,
Yeah.
to the new project.
Are there any other commissioners who'd like to make a comment, or Kent or anyone?
No, I don't have any problem
Right.
either, since there is no, this is Indra. I don't have any problem either, since there is no compliance issue.
All right. All right. Could I have a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for the Burlington's wetland bylaw permit for the 400 to 600 Summit Drive by the Gutierrez Company? Is there a motion?
So moved. Bill?
Second?
Indra, second.
All right. Dawn, how do you vote on the certificate?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes,
Bill?
Yes, for both certificates.
Well, we're doing one at a time.
Oh, one at a time, I'm sorry. Okay. Yes,
Okay. All right. And the chair votes yes, that's 500. Could I have a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for the erosion and sedimentation control permit that applies to the same location, 400 to 600 Summit Drive by the Gutierrez Company?
so moved, Indra.
Second?
second, Bill?
Second, Don.
All right. Don, how do you vote?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes,
Bill?
Yes,
Chair votes yes. That carries 500. Both are issued. Okay, on the wetland permit for moving of the dirt around the surety on this one.
5,000.
Do you recommend full release? Are there any issues, any reason to hold back?
No issues. I recommend full release.
Could I have a motion to issue a full amount of release of $5,000 for the Burlington Wetland Bylaw permit for 400 to 600 Summit Drive, requested by the Gutierrez Company?
so moved, Indra.
second,
Don, second.
All right, Don, how do you vote?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes,
Bill?
yes,
The chair votes yes. Release that bond carries 500. All right. How much is the surety for the road sedimentation control permit for this project?
15,000
All right. And your recommendation, John or Eileen?
to release the full amount.
All right. Could I have a motion to release the full amount of the surety for 400 to 600 Summit Drive, requested by the Gutierrez County, the erosion and sedimentation control permit?
So moved, Don.
Second?
second, Bill?
All right, Don, how do you vote?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Indra?
yes,
Bill?
Yes,
Chair votes yes. That carries 500 for full release of the surety of $15,000. Okay, Mr. Weiss, we will talk to you again later, very soon.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. All right, now we have some enforcement issues to talk about. The first one is 8 Marjorie Road. This is about a wetlands alteration, and we have an enforcement order that was issued on 11/24/20, and it does need to be discussed and certainly needs to be ratified if that's our will. So John or Eileen, is there anyone here for that by any chance?
I'm just
Eight
looking
Marjorie.
at the participants. I don't see his name. Tro, are you here? Okay, well, I don't think he is. So this one was a little bit funny in that John and I were both on the site back in March, and we identified to the homeowner that there is actually a wetland on the site, so he would need a wetland permit, and he apparently forgot, because in October I happened to be driving by and I saw a bobcat working at the back. So I stopped the work. They had torn out a lot of vegetation in the back. He was hoping to expand his lawn, but we issued an enforcement order, and he worked with, I think it was Norse Environmental, to come up with a restoration plan. So we're okay with the restoration plan as proposed, and that's where we are. So I think we just need to vote to ratify this one.
Okay, do we need, John or Eileen, do we need a site visit? Or do we need to review the plan ahead of time before it's approved?
I don't think so. I've been out there right now. It's actually, there's a pool of water that's kind of built up where he pulled out the vegetation. Well, unless John says differently, I think that it's pretty clear to us, and we're okay with his restoration plan. He had kept the vegetation on site that was pulled up since I stopped the guy while he was working. So he's going to use the soil and the seed bank that's in among the roots of vegetation to as partially to restore the area. And he's also going to plant some blueberries and other wetland plants.
So Larry, the first two enforcement orders are fairly small residential enforcement issues that we just sort of dealt with, on an administrative basis, and when it's coming to you for ratification, they weren't major violations.
All right, so you're recommending we simply leave it how you are satisfied with the disposition of it if we simply ratify the order.
Correct.
Yes.
All right, okay. Before we ratify this order, does anybody on the commission want to make a comment? All right, I drove by and did see the backyard kind of filled up with water, so to speak, from where there's some digging. That's all I can comment on. All right, so if there's nothing further, could I have a motion to ratify the enforcement order dated 11/24/20 for a wetland restoration at 8 Marjorie Road? Is there such a motion?
So moved, Bill.
Second?
Don, second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll put it to a vote. Don, how do you vote?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, that carries. The enforcement order for 8 Marjorie Road carries 5-0-0. All right, 9 Stony Brook Road. Eileen or John, would you like to make comments on this one?
Well, this is a similar situation in that it's a small residential area or issue. The folks moved in, didn't really realize what the wetland and stream restrictions were. They wanted to expand their lawn, so they pulled out some vegetation and they applied some loam and soil to what was actually wetland. They worked with Mary Trudeau to produce a restoration plan, and we're happy with that restoration plan too. I was in contact with Derek, the homeowner, during the week, and they had trouble finding a contractor to do the work, and right now the ground is a bit frozen, so they're going to do it in the spring, and we're okay with that. So again, this is just to ratify. This was done administratively.
So let me ask, is there anyone from 9 Stony Brook Road on the line here? No.
I could be.
Okay, any of the committee? What's that?
This is Mary Trudeau. I did represent them, if you wanted to ask me a question.
Okay. Ms. Trudeau, I don't think anybody has a question. I think our staff has said they're satisfied with what's been proposed.
Thank you.
All right, so could I have a motion to ratify the enforcement order dated 9/22/20 for 9 Stony Brook Road for a wetland alteration?
So moved, Gail.
Second, Bill.
Second. All right, Don, how do you vote?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, that carries 500, ratifying the enforcement order dated 9/22/20 for 9 Stony Brook Road for a wetlands alteration. All right, now we're on item 5C. This is an enforcement order concerning 181 Bedford Street. It was for unapproved paving of permeable areas, and it is to issue an enforcement order for this particular project. Is there anyone online that would like to introduce themselves? This?
Yes, this is John Tucci. Can you see me?
Yeah, we can, John.
Hi, how are you? I'm the current owner over at 171 Bedford Street. And
Yep.
the realtor and the purchaser, Greg Kennewall, they're present also at the meeting, but I'll be speaking. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. But basically, I took ownership of the building a year ago, and I'm selling it to Greg Kennewall, and they're proposing to do a dance instruction studio there.
Right. Okay. Do you have any comment on the issue at hand at all? You're welcome to say anything.
So basically, John Keeley, I was made aware that we're out of compliance with the original 1999 approval for compliance letter. So basically, there were pavers that were in place in the original planting beds per the original site plan.
Yep.
And those pavers had been removed and paved over. So
Right.
we're trying to just get back in compliance and put back pavers. And there's 2 types of pavers in front of you in the package that you have.
Right. Right. All right. John or Eileen, do you have comments on this one? We all have the paperwork that was sent around.
So not really any further comments, but we're just looking for you to agree with the results, which would be to remove the pavements in those parking areas, put in permeable pavers, so that the new owners can take possession of the site without any outstanding violations.
Right. Any of the commissioners have any comments on, have any issues with the reasonableness of what's being proposed?
No, that seems fine to me.
Same thing.
Anyone
No,
else?
it's okay with me. Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, hearing none. Do we have the enforcement order ready to issue, or is it to issue an enforcement order with these agreements?
So we do have an enforcement order. I think we shared it with you. I can sign it on your behalf like I usually do, just for the sake of getting it out the door tomorrow.
Right.
So, but you should still vote on it.
All right, so could I have a motion to issue the enforcement order for 171 Bedford Street? The issue is for an unapproved paving of permeable area and a subsequent remediation of same. Is there a motion to ratify an enforcement order for that?
So moved. Indra.
Second, Don. Second, Don.
Don, how do you vote? Don, how do you vote?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Next is Gail, how do you vote?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes.
All right, Bill?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. The enforcement order for 171 Bedford Street is approved with the remediation as proposed by 500. Mr. Tucci, thank you very much for cooperating on this issue. We appreciate it.
No problem. I just had a quick question. Is there any objection to using the Aqualine series, which is the solid permeable paver? The preference of the purchaser would be.
Yeah, I see that here. John or Eileen, would you like to weigh in on this? Do you see any reason not to use it?
I didn't really look at it, but as long as it's permeable, that's fine.
That's what
Yeah,
it says it
it's,
is.
There's only two types of pavers, and the Aqualine is a permeable paver.
Yeah, that's fine then.
Yeah, it looks so okay to me when I look at it.
And John,
It-
a quick question, John, on the erosion barrier along the bank. Is a wattle fine, or do you need a fence?
The wattle's fine. I mean, this is a one-day project probably, or two-day project.
Yeah, 1 day cutting and then the next day install.
Yeah, so wattle's fine then.
Okay.
The Aqualine seems to look a little better too, Mr. Tucci.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of leaning towards that. It will look better.
Sure. All right, dude, I think we voted on this, right, people? Yes.
Yes,
we
you did.
So, Mr. Tucci, I think we're all set. Thank you very much again.
Appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Have a nice night.
All right, have a good evening. Okay, next is an enforcement order for 60 Blanchard Road. Is there someone representing that project online tonight?
So there's nobody here, Larry. So this is an enforcement order you already issued. I just wanted to give you an update. The enforcement order had a deadline of filing a notice of intent for December 1st. The applicant reached out, or the representative, the engineer for the applicant reached out and said that they're working on a notice of intent for a larger scale project, which will incorporate fixing the parking lot, but also doing some site work for a proposed tenant that's coming in. So I did run it by the commissioners by email, and everybody seemed fine to postpone that. So I just wanted to let you know that they're working on notice of intent and it will be filed for January. So that's just an update on that issue.
All right, that sounds good. So there's nothing further to do on this one.
Correct.
All right, so that brings us to, we're almost halfway down the agenda. This is our public hearing. This is item number 6. Notice is given, the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission will hold a virtual public hearing on Thursday, December 10th, 2020. And this will be done by remote participation. The purpose of the public hearing is to take all information related to a notice of intent filed by Daniel E. Murray, trustee for the tear down of a dwelling and the construction of a new dwelling. It's located at 11 University Ave in Burlington. The proposed work would be within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetative wetlands under the State Wetlands Protection Act and Burlington Bylaw Article 14. The commission will review all information relative to the application, and we may issue an order of conditions and a Burlington's wetland permit for the proposed. Okay, and the information is available by conservation@burlington.org. So with that as the introduction, is there someone here for that representing 11 University Ave?
Good evening, Jonathan Schuster from Oxbow Associates on behalf of the applicant, and I believe we also have David Romero here, who's the project engineer, if there are any questions for him as well.
Okay, well, since you're our guest, the way we do it here, you get to talk first.
Great, and if you'll indulge me, I'll share my screen so I can refer to the plan. See if this works. Can you see this plan?
We can.
Yes.
Great. Great, so this is, here's the proposal. I'll show you the existing conditions first. Yep, so single family home exists now. There's a attached carport and porch, paved drive. I visited the site and delineated a bordering vegetated wetland in the back here. Line's a little bit convoluted, some ins and outs, and there's a little finger that extends up here by wetland flag A5. The wetland's dominated by red maple, white pine, some elm, and there's some historic ditches throughout there. A lot of anthropogenic disturbance in the area in general, and the yard exhibited signs of historic manipulation and fill. There are some yard trees, including pines and maples. For taking the proposed conditions here. So let me see if I can zoom in a little more for you. Great. So the existing dwelling, I should go back, is 39 feet from the nearest point of the delineated wetland. We did just submit a new plan to you. We had incorrectly depicted the 40-foot no structure zone, and I had referred to that other plan in the notice filing. So in actuality, currently, as the house sits, there's only 1 square foot approximately of the existing dwelling that's in the 40-foot, so slightly non-compliant. And the proposed conditions, so here existing 39 feet from the wetland, proposed conditions, there's no area that's in the 40-foot, and we're almost 10 feet further from that closest wetland flag A5 at 48.7 feet. The existing structure, the gutter downspouts just dump out onto the lawn. We're proposing 4 dry wells to provide a net reduction in rate and runoff for each storm event, the 2 through the 100-year storm. And again, David Romero is on the line to speak more to that if you have questions about his stormwater analysis or the systems themselves. The house will have an attached garage and a paved drive, walkway, rear deck, and a front porch. And as you can see, the novel impervious surface that is on site is as far from the wetland resource as is feasible. The limit of yard will largely stay the same, especially in this crucial area here from wetland flags A5 through A8. Because the dry well down here, dry well number 4, has to be installed out by the tree line, I believe there will be a modest increase in the area of the yard in this vicinity, which is a bit further from the wetland. And I believe that the commissioners were on site yesterday. We do have a DEP file number, and I sent that along. Actually, I don't have it right here in front of me, but I did hear from Nero, and we have that number. I relayed that to John and Eileen. We did get green cards in, those were relayed digitally. With that, I'll open it up to any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Schuster. All right, let's first go to our staff. John or Eileen, do you have any comments or issues or concerns regarding this project, 11 University Ave?
Okay, it's Eileen. I don't really have any issues with it at the moment. As Jonathan explained, it's the resource in question is bordering vegetated wetland. The existing house is about 40 feet away, and the proposed house is going to be about 9 feet further away. So that's somewhat of an improvement. There is a channel that runs along behind the site, approximately from west to east, but it's not on the regulatory streams map. And anyway, since it's way behind the, or it's considerably behind the bordering vegetated wetland, it's kind of moot, I guess, because 100 feet from bank would still be outside the buffer. My 2 questions, I think he partly answered. One of them was how many trees are going to be removed. It looks to me like there's only 2 coming out in the plan, but I wasn't sure if I had misinterpreted that. I think I had one other question. Oh yeah, are any other? It also looks like there's no grade changes happening whatsoever, and I just wondered whether I'm also interpreting that correctly.
I'd be happy to answer those for you if you'd like. So first off, there are 2 trees in jurisdiction. I'm sorry, I neglected to mention this. 2 pines that are proposed to be removed. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but if you look at dry well number 4, there's a 22-inch pine. And where the house bumps out westerly, the very western edge of the house, there's a 24-inch pine. These are the 2 trees in jurisdiction that we're proposing to remove. There are some other trees outside of jurisdiction in the frontage that will be coming down as well. And second question, there are some modest grade changes. the contour. That is proposed to be slightly adjusted, mainly to accommodate the dry well and sort of the shifting geometry of the site. I'll see if David has anything to add to that, but yeah, some basic slight contour changes proposed there.
Yeah, no, hi, David Romero here. Yeah, that's true. There's very little change to the grades on site. The lawn is fairly level, and we're going to keep it that way. We might just put some landscaping out front of the house, but that's about it for grading.
Okay. All right, so let me go through, see if any comments by the commission or if anyone's in the audience. Dawn, comments?
Not at this time.
Gail?
Yeah, so are we gonna ask for, or isn't there will be in the condition, draft, a fence or something at the back to kind of demarcate the, the wetlands? There's also, if I remember right, this is the house, there's a big unionymous right at the back of the property that would be nice to be removed. There also are some that are in the wetlands, but I would probably best not to go into the wetlands to do any vegetation removal. But the one that at least abuts the, in front of the line, it's quite large. It'd be nice to get rid of that. But also whether there'd be a fence to demarcate the wetlands. That's it.
All right, so that was a suggestion for a fence. As I go through the list, anybody else is welcome to comment. Indra?
Yes, I have first comment is Mr. Schuster, did you say that the existing structure, 1 square foot of the existing structure is within 40 feet no build zone?
That is correct.
And now it is not, so it is about 48 feet.
Here,
New structure.
no portion of the new structure is within the 40-foot
Right.
no build.
Okay, and how many dry well you are providing here? I see the number, but how many?
There's 4.
4. And all those roof runoff is taken care of by the dry well?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, they're all sized for the whole roof up to the 100-year storm. Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, Bill?
Thank you. I'm impressed with 4 separate dry wells, and they all look like quality structures. My one question is the driveway, and if I'm reading the grades right, appears to pitch to the street. Is that correct? And how are you going to deal with the driveway runoff?
Yeah, the runoff is going to continue to go to the street from the driveway. But overall, because of the existing house did not have any infiltration, it's basically ran off for downspouts. We're essentially still maintaining the runoff off the site by infiltrating the whole roof area. So basically all we have now is the driveway going off to the site versus before it was the house and the driveway. So we are able to maintain the runoff, the peak runoff off site.
Can the driveway be pitched or crowned so that it runs to the sides with a stone trench or some sort?
If that's something you'd like us to do, yeah, I think that could be accomplished.
Great, that would be appreciated.
All right, so what I heard was that we have a request for the driveway to be pitched. Do we need any micro grades so the guy who was selected to pave it knows that it's supposed to be pitched? Mr. Romero, if you want the driveway pitched, oftentimes they don't end up that way because there's no mention of it anywhere.
Yeah, I think we probably want to pitch it to the top of, I guess, if you're looking at the plan to the right.
Yeah.
Keep it away from the landscaping. So yeah, we can do some spot grades there, and we'll pitch it like a 2% pitch to the right, and we'll put a small trench there for stone. If that's all right.
I think, in my opinion, that would be appreciated because otherwise we require or ask for this to be done, and then it doesn't end up going that way anyway after it's built. So.
Okay, yeah, we'll put some spot grids on there and we'll do that, sure.
All right, and did I hear correctly that no part of the 40-foot no structure zone no part of the structure is in that 40-foot zone. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's correct. Under proposed conditions. Drywell 3 will be installed in there, but again, no structures, no surface structures.
I thought when we were also in the backyard, we noticed that the wetlands line seemed to take kind of a funky turn. It seemed to go up and then make like a loop and go around. Is that true, or that it's sort of like there was like a knoll or something that stuck into the wetlands?
So that was, I think, around wetland flag 6. I thought that there was an area where the flag maybe could have been pulled closer to the house. But behind that was an area of upland. So it was sort of like a little area of wetland that came in. But I mean, I can take a look at that next week, and if I, I'll look at it with an auger. I'm not absolutely certain. It just looked like it was an area where the wetland could maybe move in a little.
Jonathan here. I'd say the line is, when I went out to the site and originally delineated it, it is very, a curvy, topsy-turvy kind of wetland line, especially because of the historic manipulation of the site. So you are right that if you stand at the wetland line and look in, perhaps there's a tiny, little molehill of upland somewhere in there, and you can see some evidence of historic, manipulation of earth. I'd say around, flag 6, the wetland turns to the south. So by all means, John, have a look. Wetland flag 5 is the closest flag to the work that we're, measuring off of. But yeah, I mean, I tried to keep it as consistent as possible given information I had been seeing on site in terms of where the earth had been moved historically.
Is it possible, John, do you think, to straighten out that wetland line, dig out the area that protrudes in and create a wetland that if you know what I mean, so it's not, so he has a line that goes more straight across? Is there a way to kind of adjust it, you think, or is that not possible?
No, I would not recommend doing that.
Okay, all right. That's fine, it's just a thought. All right, is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment on 11 University Ave?
Well, could I ask a question? How many of the trees that are outside, like towards the street, are going to be taken out? That, to me, looks like a house that's nestled in a forest.
Could you state your name for the record and where you live?
I'm sorry, I'm Ed Livers. I'm one of the abutters at 40 Crystal Circle.
Great, okay, thanks.
Sorry, Larry, I should have said that.
No problem. You might want to repeat the question because I think I might have interjected in there.
Okay, no problem. So I was just wondering, I look at that house, I walk by that house, looks like a house that's nestled in a forest. And I was wondering how many of the trees, what percentage of them outside of the wetlands are going to be removed? Just an estimate.
David Romero, I would say there's probably about six trees that will be removed at the front of the house. That's outside of the buffer.
Okay, thank you very much.
This is Bill Boyman. David, maybe you can answer this also. It looked to me like there are a couple of trees marked that might have been on the neighboring property. Are those also planning to come down as part of this while the tree guys are there?
No, we won't remove any trees that aren't on our property. No.
It's just some of them had spray paint on them and it looked like they were on the line, pines onto the left of the drawing here.
No, that wouldn't have been our markings. I don't think Jonathan marked them. I didn't mark them, no.
Okay. I was just curious whether maybe they got together and said, hey, let's do something while the guys are here, Okay, thanks.
Okay, is there anyone else in the audience for this one? All right, so according to our procedures, we would continue this until the next meeting. Unless someone sees something that I do not see any reason why it would not close on the January 14th meeting. Could I have a motion?
Larry, before you do, could we just get a clarification? Gail mentioned a fence.
Oh, yes.
I think it would be a good idea to get that on the plan. Where would you like that on? What would the distance be from the wetland that you'd like that fence? Do you want it at the 20-foot no disturb?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Especially if, there has historically been some filling there that, it would be nice to bring it back.
That would be a pretty curved fence.
Yeah, we could be flexible on the straightness of the fence, is, a little bit in and out of the 20-foot mark, maybe to have a more aesthetically pleasing line for the fence. We've done that in the past.
Right.
Jonathan here. Would the commission be open to other methods of demarcation, such as pheno markers, just so we can have an internal discussion amongst the project team about that?
So it's not just for demarcation, but it's also to prevent, harm to the wetland, dumping in the wetland. So we typically ask for some kind of barrier that can't get a wheelbarrow through.
So,
Okay.
so Gail, that could be a post and rail fence, Gail?
A post and rail fence would suffice?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would an evergreen shrub barrier suffice? With sign?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Would an evergreen shrub barrier with or without signage suffice? Just so we have a range of options to discuss amongst the project team?
It would have to be a pretty densely planted, I think, so that
Okay.
the people couldn't get through it to, dump stuff. I think we have had, evergreen lines before, but they're usually pretty densely planted, and I don't know there. I mean, if you planted arborvitaes, they might just get destroyed by deer.
Mm-hmm. The other question I had was in regards to the placement of the fence. It is a tight lot in terms of the, where the existing yard is, and you can see on the plan where the edge of the mowing has been historically. As proposed, we were in that tight area between wetlands flags A5 and A7. We had intended to keep the lawn the same, just given how tight that yard is. Would the commission be open to demarcating that and providing that monumentation to keep the limit of lawn so there's no further encroachment towards the wetland, but not necessarily at the 20-foot no disturb?
How do the commissioners feel about that? Any comment, please?
I don't have a problem with it. This is Bill. I mean, it's already disturbed, but then just want to make sure there's no more encroachment. And again, it doesn't have to be a fence at the crazy line of the lawn even, straighten it out somewhat if it makes it easier.
Okay.
I guess that would be okay. I'd still like to see that large burning bush removed.
I think we can accomplish that.
Okay. All right. All this sounds good. Any other comments before I have a motion to continue? All right, hearing none. Could I have a motion to continue the public hearing for 11 University Ave to January 14th, 2021?
So moved. Indra.
Second.
Don,
Dawn, how do you vote?
yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. That carries 500. This hearing is continued until January 14th. Okay.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
All right, so the next is a continued public hearing. This is erosion and sedimentation control permit for 300 Summit Drive. This is by Scott Weiss of the Gutierrez Company proposing it. Construction of 235,000 square feet of commercial office and laboratory building with associated structured parking and associated site improvements. All right, Mr. Weiss.
Good evening again. Scott Weiss with the Gutierrez Company. Thank you. Everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Terrific. As you indicated, this is a continued public hearing. We have been before the commission a couple other nights already. We've received a number of comments and input from the commission. We've provided a detailed response to comments. We've modified and provided an updated revised set of site plans, incorporating modifications and changes, some additional erosion control, doubling up in some areas, the addition of a water quality unit, some other modifications to the site plan. We've incorporated construction sequencing notes onto the site preparation plan. And with that, we did understand as of the last meeting that we would hopefully be in a position to be able to close out the hearing this evening. And with that, we do want to thank the commission for their very attuned and insightful comments, as well as the staff for their review. It's been a very good back and forth process. We think that's made the project better.
All right, thank you, Mr. Weiss. All right, John or Eileen, then I'll go to the various commissioners, associate commissioner, and so forth.
So John here, I agree with Scott. I think everything that the commission has asked for has been provided. And I think that we're ready to approve an erosion permit. We've distributed a draft both to the commission, I believe, and to the applicant for review. And we have gotten some minor edits, proposed edits from the applicant.
Okay. Kent, do you have anything more on this one?
No.
Okay. Let's see. Bill, anything?
No, I think we did have a good exchange on this one, and certainly appreciate the cooperation of everyone involved. It looks good.
All right, Indra, anything further?
Nope.
Gail?
No, all set.
Dawn?
Nope.
Okay, the chair has nothing further. This is still a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to contribute to the public hearing of 300 Summit Drive? All right, the answer is no, since we didn't hear anybody. Okay, so Eileen or John, would you give us a summary of what's prepared for the permit?
Sure. Eileen, if Eileen could share it. The document is got the findings at the beginning, which describe the project. Then there are administrative conditions, which are all standard, which include the entire plan set references. So the first 7 conditions are all administrative conditions, which are fairly standard. Condition 8 through 11 are pollution prevention conditions, which are fairly standard. Number 10, the applicant has proposed changing a condition about the rinsing of concrete transports. So it's just a slight change where we had prohibited it, and they're suggesting that that the cleaning of the transports be conducted in a designated area and concrete residue removed from the site. So that's fine with us. Then the erosion control conditions start with number 11. There's just some wording about the area with the doubled hay bales. So on the north side where there's a double row of hay bales, they just basically changed the wording a little. Condition 13 is a condition about the inspection of the erosion controls, and they caught a remnant from a previous permit, which was inadvertently left there. And then all those other conditions are erosion control permit. Erosion control conditions are standard. They did suggest a suggestion on condition 20 about dewatering actually infiltrating into the ground on site, which is fine once the sediment's been removed. Condition 23 is regarding protection of silt sacks, which they suggested a minor change to, which we're fine with. Condition 24 is regarding the construction entrance. So they just once again changed some wordings, changed from modified to clean and repaired, which is fine. And then condition 26 starts the stormwater management conditions, which condition 31, they suggested a change of the person who's actually witnessing the installation, which is fine. Condition 33, the applicant proposed changing, let's see, the property owner shall be notified of maintenance requirements and following completion of construction they added in, must adhere to the O&M plan. So that's just a clarification. Obviously, they can't really adhere to the O&M plan until the project's done. And then on condition 35, surety, this is where we were a little confused. We took the surety from the wetland bylaw, which was a fairly minor project, and we were going to propose to roll it over, but what we're really suggesting is rolling over the previous erosion permit for 400, 600, which was the 15,000. So I would recommend that we switch that 5,000 to actually 15,000. That would be my recommendation for surety for this project.
Okay. All right, so let's see if there are any comments. Kent, you have anything on this one, on comments on the conditions at all?
No.
Bill, anything?
Given the scope of the project, I think the surety of 15,000 makes sense. Otherwise, fine.
Kendra?
Yes, I have the same comments as Bill already made it. I think surety bond should be $15,000. I agree with that.
Gail?
Yes, I agree with what was said.
Don?
No further comment.
Okay. I'd like to just go to one condition, number 15. This talks about that the construction sequencing plan shall be submitted to Conservation Department prior to commencing construction. Is the finished construction sequencing plan done? Are we, Mr. Weiss, are we relying on the engineer to provide input before it's submitted?
So
Go
what?
ahead.
I'm sorry. So what we've provided to date is an outline of construction sequencing notes, which is included in the erosion or the site preparation plan. And I was actually also remiss, I didn't introduce Will Park from Sims Maney McKee, who made all the plan revisions and technical documentation along the way, did a great job for this project. But he and we did include construction sequencing notes and guidelines and some of the major components. If a more detailed plan, and I think this is what this note may have been getting to, if a more detailed plan is required, we'll really need a site contractor involved. And that's what we would have to provide prior to construction once that contractor is engaged and ready to go.
Okay, so that's what you would provide subsequent to getting a site contractor on board.
Right. That was my understanding of this condition. If it was intended to be different than that, let's.
That's how it was intended.
Well, here's my comment. That was my same understanding, Mr. Weiss. But two things. One is that I think any changes to the construction sequencing plan should be submitted to the office for their, just submitted to the office, and I guess they have the opportunity to comment back to you if they want. Okay, so so we should have something in here that says any changes. This is a large site, and the reason the construction sequencing plan got brought up was because the construction sequencing in conjunction with the contractor should have input on how they're going to set the construction sequence so that large amounts of the site are not all undisturbed and we have a problem with erosion and sedimentation runoff. So I was wondering if this particular statement, what I really want to say is the contract, that the sequencing plan should have a small narrative that says how the construction sequence is designed to limit the, it's not that we need, I'm not getting this out right. It's not that we just need a construction sequencing plan 1 through 55. That's not the purpose of it. The purpose of this was to develop a construction sequence that limits major portions of the site, the whole site being disturbed at once with stuff perhaps causing a problem. That's the real purpose of it in terms of preventing erosion. So is there a way we could, I don't know if I'm coming across to anybody, but is there a way we could design this on how the construction sequence will limit or propose to limit the erosion from the site?
So
Is there a way to say that?
if I can jump in here for a moment, and I don't know if John, you had some comment on this. One of the advantages of this site is the existing geometry where it's in a little bit of a bowl to begin with. So a lot of the erosion is going to be fairly well easily controlled because it's not going to flow uphill, that's for sure. I can be certain of that much. And so where we could experience some erosion is much easier to control. What I don't want to get into is restricting artificially a contractor from the ability to take material from one area and as cut and use it as fill in another area by limiting and saying you can only disturb this portion of the site before that portion. So until we have a site contractor on board, who usually will look into the cuts and fill analysis, I'd like to have that component as a condition or modification to the condition that we have in place. If we add the language that you were just talking about with the intent to limit the portions of the site exposed at a single time to limit erosion, we're okay with that, with the understanding we need to develop a more specific plan, if you will.
Eileen, well, let me ask John or Eileen, do you have any comment? I have a comment to what Mr. Weiss just said.
Well, so one thing, if you remember the site, I mean, it's not like they're going out and clearing a forest to build this site. This area is currently pretty much all open. They're going to have to fill in a detention basin, but I mean the amount of vegetation that they're removing besides herbaceous vegetation is pretty low. I don't know how many trees are coming down, but it's not many. So the site is already it's a fairly clear, it's a cleared site already.
Right.
It does have grasses and whatnot growing on it, but
yeah. I'll just say, Mr. Weiss, that I am convinced by what you said. Your comments reminded me that, yes, it is a big bowl. And so most of any erosion is going to be imploding into itself, not off the site.
Right.
So I'm after your comments, we don't need to discuss it unless anybody wants to say anything. I am less worried after you reminded me of that.
Great.
Any other comments by anyone? All right, so could I have a motion to close the hearing for 300 Summit Drive for the erosion and sedimentation control permit under Burlington Bylaw Article 14, Section 6?
So moved, Don.
Second?
Second, Indra.
All right, so Don, how do you vote?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. The hearing is closed for 300 Summit Ave by a vote of 5-0-0. Could I have a motion to approve the erosion and sedimentation control permit as discussed for 300 Summit Ave under Burlington Bylaw Article 14, Section 6 for an erosion sedimentation control permit?
So moved, Bill.
Second,
Second, Gail.
Don, how do you vote?
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Indra,
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, the permit is approved. Could I have a motion to require the posting of $15,000 surety under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 for 300 Summit Drive for the erosion and sedimentation control permit?
So moved. Indra.
Second?
Second, Bill.
All right, anyone have discussions? Kent, Bill, Indra, Gail, Dawn, anyone, any comment on this? All right. So I guess we have a motion on the floor. Dawn, how do you vote?
Yes.
Gail? And Indra?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, that carries 500. The request for a $15,000 performance surety for 300 Summit Ave has been approved. Okay, Mr. Weiss, I think that does it. I think we're all set.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everyone's input and hope you all have a happy, safe, and healthy holiday.
All right, thank you, Mr. Weiss. You too.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Will, Pratt, good to see you.
Thanks, everyone. Happy holidays.
Same to you. All right. Next on the agenda, we have four. I'd like to take all of them at once. We have a continued public hearing that was filed as notice of intent for our Redmond Street roadway, construct a new road and steam crossing. I should note that the revised layout now comes off of Raymond Road. And then we have continued public hearing for 4 Redmond Street and a continued public hearing for 5 Redmond Street. So essentially we have the street crossing some wetlands. We have 2 houses labeled as 4 and 5 Redmond Street unless the designation has been changed.
Okay.
All right, someone here for that?
Yes, we are. For the record, this is Mary Trudeau, and I'm representing Murray Hills Real Estate on this filing of the 3 notices of intent this evening. And with me is David Romero, who is the project engineer, and Phyllis Etzel, who is representing Murray Hills as well. The last time we were before you, as Larry had mentioned, we had filed the notice of intent for the extension of Redmond Ave to create frontage and access for 2 residential single-family house lots. At the last meeting, the commission questioned our premise that we were minimizing the wetlands alteration by using the Redmond Street access, and they asked us to go out and investigate the Raymond Street access, which is another subdivision roadway that is close to this property. So we went out, we looked at the wetlands again, and David Romero did some engineering, and we realized that the Raymond Street access point could be used to create a subdivision roadway that we are calling McDonald Lane for the purposes of this filing, and that this McDonald Lane could create access and frontage to the 2 lots that we had originally proposed. There were several advantages to this new layout from a wetlands perspective. One, that there was a significant reduction in the amount of altered wetlands, that we had originally come before the commission asking for permission for a limited project filing for 4,257 square feet of wetlands alteration, which included a stream crossing and alterations to 40 feet of bank. And the new McDonald Lane crossing coming off of Raymond Ave reduces the wetlands filling to 3,220 square feet, a net reduction of 1,037 square feet, and eliminates the need for a stream crossing. This is actually a big deal. The stream crossing, if you recall, occurred at an area where there was a historic stone wall, and to put in a crossing that would allow for wildlife passage and meet the various standards for culvert design, it was a large structure that coming in off of Raymond Ave and doing the McDonald Avenue subdivision greatly simplifies the engineering of the roadway. We do have to create more roadway, a longer roadway to get to the lots because Raymond is further than Redmond from the properties. But all in all, the option of looking at the Raymond Street and McDonald Lane subdivision roadway is an improvement from a wetlands perspective. I believe that the commission went out to the site yesterday and I was unable to go, and they did a site visit looking at the additional wetland area that we would be crossing. I can see that the plan is now up on the screen. And as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, the light green area was the wetland crossing that we had originally proposed. And if you look on the right-hand side of the screen, the hatched area represents the wetlands that would now be proposed for filling. Even the configuration of the wetlands off of the Raymond Street access point is more advantageous in that it's a finger-like projection off of a larger wetland system rather than a crossing that bisects a wetland as the original proposal did. So we feel that the commission's request to have us look at the alternative access provided a net boon to the project, that the project is a better solution from a wetlands perspective than we had originally anticipated. In terms of the stormwater management, David Romero has again engineered a system that meets the town regulations, and he can get into that with you. This change in the roadway layout really didn't have a big impact on the two single-family house lots that would be developed, that both of them are buffer zone projects. They remain buffer zone projects. The roadway just gives them frontage from a different vantage point. One of the advantage of coming off of the Raymond Street also is that we had proposed a temporary alteration of somewhat less than 1,000 square feet to run a sewer line out to Raymond Street so that we could have gravity flow sewers for these two lots. And because we are doing our crossing and coming across with the roadway, we don't need to do that temporary alteration. The utilities can all go within the footprint of the proposed McDonald Lane and Raymond Street extension. As was noted at the site visit yesterday, I understood that there were some current concerns about the current drainage off of Raymond Street, that Raymond Street just kind of ends and roadway runoff runs as sheet flow and has eroded a piece of the slope between the end of the roadway and the down gradient areas. The proposal that you have in front of us does include stormwater management and improvements to Raymond Road that will stabilize that slope area and provide for managed stormwater from Raymond Road all the way through to the end of McDonald Lane. I guess at this point, I'd like to ask the commission if they have questions about the wetlands issues, or should we ask David Romero to discuss his new stormwater management design alterations?
I would suggest that David Romero, it might be tied into, we may be talking about an integrated fashion. So Mr. Romero, why don't you give us a summary of your stormwater management?
Yeah, sure. I wonder, I think if you could put that plan back up, the plan you just had on there, could you put that back on, Eileen? Thank you. So we're proposing to put in, as Mary mentioned, there is a problem, existing problem on Raymond Road. There's no formal drainage system anywhere along that. I think it's 700 to 800 feet long from Church Lane. There are bits and pieces of curbing and berm along the road. And I know there's been a history of some pretty bad drainage runoff. And I guess water gets actually pretty deep as it flows down Raymond Road. And I guess it also into some of the driveways. Although we can't solve the whole problem with Raymond Road, we are going to be improving at least the end of it with not letting it go into the wetlands untreated, and by proposing some berm along both sides, installing some catch basins down toward the bottom of the hill, and then collecting the storm water there and discharging it to riprap lined basin so that it can just flow out to the wetlands with dissipated velocity. So we're slowing it down from firing it off. As far as our road goes, McDonald Lane, we are proposing catch basins, and we will put that to an underground infiltration system so we can mitigate for the up to the 100-year storm for our part. So as well as improving the wetland alteration, and by reducing it, we're also going to at least provide some improvement to Raymond Road to the end of it there by putting in the curbing and the catch basins and the basin. So I guess that's my part, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, sir. That's fine. Okay, John or Eileen, we have two basic issues. One is the project in itself, and the other is sort of wetlands related. You want to start with wetlands and tell us the status of the line? Do you have you reviewed it at all, or do we need to do more review?
So when it was first flagged, we just went out with a big group of people, including the planners and whatnot, and just walked it to get a rough idea to make sure that that we agreed that the area where the road was going was the delineation was in the ballpark to make sure that this project was feasible. So we've looked at that in a real rough way. We didn't get these plans till the end of last week, so we have not gone out and reviewed the delineation yet. Frankly, it may be difficult now that it's winter. We'll try. So that's the wetland resource areas. There is one. There's a town regulatory stream off to the if you're looking at the plan off to the right. So this roadway would be in the outer riparian of a locally regulated stream only. That's just a note. But certainly being in the outer 100 feet to that is far preferable to actually a stream crossing on the other side. So, so that's probably it for the wetlands. But I mean, clearly, the reduction in alteration to BVW and bank makes this a preferable project from a wetlands protection point of view.
Okay, and any other comments on the project itself?
So I haven't looked at the stormwater. I mean, clearly, the existing condition on Raymond Road is difficult, and all the water ends up down at this site and on the adjacent conservation land. But the key, obviously, is to not make it any worse.
All right. So what I'd like to do is go around to the various commissioners and see if they have any questions. An associate commissioner. Maybe I'll start with Ken first. Do you have any questions at this time? Was that no?
No.
No, okay, that's fine. All right, how about we'll go in reverse order again. Bill, do you have any comments or questions?
I do. Can we look at the plan it was called the Notice of Intent Plan, the one that shows the actual drainage structures and things like that? Because that I had some questions about. Obviously, there's a lot of water flowing into this site, especially with that video that we saw during what they said was a 15-minute rainstorm. So obviously nature intends for this water to go into this site. And I'm concerned. I mean, I think it's an improvement over coming in from the other way, but I still don't like it. I don't understand looking at the elevations of a lot of these infiltration structures and dry wells. I don't see how they're going to work. I don't see that drawing coming up, so, and I'm not familiar with how to share my screen, or I would put it up.
Bill, before you go on, could we talk a little more about the drainage structure? Because that might be an area where I know I have some questions on the same point. Maybe
Yeah,
others
I
do
was hoping
too.
to see the drawing showing the drainage structures. It would help with the conversation.
Yeah. Well, maybe
But
before
anyways,
they.
let me discuss what my concerns are.
Okay.
There is, house number 5 says the basement floor level is at elevation 139. We've got wetlands very nearby it to the left that have elevations at 140 and 142. To me, that sounds like it's going to be a conflict with the level of the basement floor there. The wetland levels are above the level of the basement floor. One of my basic questions, I guess, which maybe a wetland scientist can answer for me, is when you talk about the elevation of a wetland, are you talking about the elevation of the ground as if the wetland was dry? That's the elevation? And then when it's filled up with water, the water can actually be a foot or two above that, depending upon the amount of water?
Yes, you're looking at the surface elevation of the ground.
Okay, so that's, when it's dry, that's the level of it. But in heavy rain or anything else, the wetland is going to be even higher than that, what's listed on the numbers on the drawing. So to me, the basement floor is already at least a foot or two below the wetland level. The infiltration system says the bottom of it is at 133, and again, the wetland in the vicinity is at 138 and 140. I have no idea how that's going to function as an infiltration system. I guess one of the questions and the same thing for the dry well. I mean, again, they have the dry wells at 138 and 139 for number 5, and it is below the nearby wetlands. Were any test pits done? And if they were, when were they done? Were they done during this unusually dry summer, which may not be reflective of average or normal water levels?
So, hi, David Romero. We have not done any test pits yet. We were trying to avoid any disturbance to wetlands and crossing with equipment and things. And we were going to use at the time, actually, when we got out there to confirmatory test pits. And then we do have options. If it is too shallow, we do have a lot of options that we can do with the infiltration system. We can use more shallow structures. So yeah, the answer is no, we have not done test pits yet.
Okay.
No, I have looked at soil mapping though. And soil mapping does say in that area where we show it are generally good soils. But again, that needs to be confirmed in the field.
Okay. I have the same concerns for that water quality basin that's shown in there. Its elevation compared to the wetlands next to it, and with the volume of water that I saw in those videos coming in, and all of it hitting that water quality basin, I'm not convinced that that's going to be able to handle that flow and be the primary stopping point for the amount of water that comes flowing in. My overall feeling for this project is that, as a Conservation Commission, our real task is to conserve nature. And sometimes bylaws, regulations, and zonings are written as if humans can control nature, and we cannot. And I think there's some examples of that on this site. The rainfall video clearly shows a volume and rate that indicates that nature wants the water to flow to these wetlands. And filling any of those wetlands is going to be destructive to the environment. And filling the wetlands requires replication of the wetlands at a shall be 2-to-1 ratio, according to our regulations. And, trying to replicate the wetlands in this site involves cutting down and digging up some of the upland buffer zone areas. They're in the buffer zone. And that to me is not beneficial, especially when you also consider equipment access to get in there to try to create replication areas in here. So, that bothers me. I mean, in the 15 minutes that I walked the site, I saw numerous deer droppings. There were 2 large raptors that I saw. So obviously it's an active wildlife community that exists there as well. So I have great concerns that nature is telling us we shouldn't be doing anything here.
Okay, we may go back to this subject. I have some follow-up comments on that a little later. All right, so we were going in reverse order. Why don't we just continue? Indra, you have any comments?
I have one thing is, first of all, we have to confirm the delineation, which John said that haven't done. The other thing is, yes, I have the same concern, like the infiltration system, the elevation. and the elevation of the wetland. So if the elevation of the bottom of the infiltration system is below the elevation of the wetland, that's a big concern. So the engineer has to show us how it's gonna work.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Indra. Gail?
So I agree with everything that's been said so far, including the need for, to check the delineation and the issues about the drainage and the infiltrators. It's, I mean, with that slight difference between the grades, it's hard for me to understand how any kind of infiltrator will work there. But, that's up to the applicant to show or try to show and give us some numbers to demonstrate that they think that will happen. I think the added concern is that this does go through the riparian area, and that adds another layer of regulation that I generally am not very willing to give up on. And so I think this is just a really difficult site, and a site that trying to wedge some development into an area that is not very accessible. The riprap area too, where that area flows into from the road. I guess I would like to see some information about the projected speed of material that would go through there, and whether it would slow it down enough so there wouldn't be erosion, and also slow it down enough to add an extra layer of cleaning the water before it goes into the wetland. There's just a lot of hurdles here, and I there's more for us to be able to more information we need about the drainage, the wetland delineation, and some of the specs on how these things are predicted to work.
Okay. Dawn?
I have the same concerns that all the other commissioners expressed, and I feel that as they do, we need to see more data to persuade us that this project will, in fact, work.
Okay. I just have a couple of questions I'll just throw into the mix that are along the same lines. On your infiltration, I see that the line where the infiltration is, there was about, I don't know what your elevation is, but it looks like just beyond it is 146. And right through the middle of it, it looks like you're maintaining about 144 to the top. And these storm techs have about a 2.5-inch structure, and then they recommend about a foot on top. So that's 3.5. And then if you need 2 feet below the structure for drainage above the seasonally high groundwater, we're at 5.5. It looks pretty close to me. There's still wetlands around the 140. So it looks pretty close. So I have the same, I guess the question that Bill had is the first thing I'll say. Second thing is, you are going to be filling in a wetland. Is that correct, Mr. Romero?
Yes, we're filling, we're proposing to fill 32 to 20 square feet.
And are you compensating it for anywhere? Are you doing some replication anywhere? Are you doing some quid pro quo arrangement that you're proposing? I mean, what is the compensation?
We are proposing to donate some land in lieu of for mitigation. There's a lot over off of McSweeney Way. I think we have a plan somewhere that shows where that land is. It's adjacent to this, and that is what we're offering for mitigation. And that's about, I think, 1.7 acres. I know Phyllis, I think Phyllis knows the size of it. I believe it's 1.7. Yeah.
Was that land? I'm not
You're muted, Phyllis.
trying to be Mr. Romero. I'm not trying to be a wise guy, but
Yeah, go ahead.
was that land off of McCarthy? Was it? What was it?
It's off of McSweeney Way. It's actually owned
Sweeney,
by-
yeah. That
yeah.
land. Did you? Was that already committed to for a conservation restriction previously? That land.
Yes, I know what you're speaking to. This is a different parcel of land.
Oh,
We have.
I was simply asking if you were donating the same land twice.
Oh.
Proposing to donate it twice.
We're not double dipping. No.
Oh, okay. All right. And is the land you're proposing
Excuse me, but Phyllis is talking and you're muted.
Phyllis, you're muted.
Go ahead, Phyllis.
She's still muted.
No, can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Phyllis,
I'm
please.
sorry. I had given Eileen a GIS plan showing the area, and I don't know if she can put it up, but you would be able to see the parcel. And I think it's a good mitigation. This lot is not. I agree with your member, Bill, that it's not a good lot to do replication on. We'd have to remove trees. I don't like to cut down trees in any case, and these trees would be in the buffer. But this lot is 1.7 acres. It's owned by Robert Murray, and it is across the paper street. It's actually Somerset, across the street from the conservation land or the conservation restriction land that we're in the process of completing for the commission. And it's also across the street from town-owned conservation land, I believe owned by the town of Burlington. I think it would create a nice block of land that would be left, well, forevermore undeveloped. I don't see the plan yet, but maybe it'll come up.
Yeah, Eileen, I think is trying to share it.
I think she is. Maybe we'll give it a minute, but I'm not sure of the total acres. But if you see it,
I thought it was 1.7 acres, Phyllis. Is that?
Well, the parcel that we would like to donate is 1.7 acres.
Right.
I think the conservation restriction is around an acre, and then the town-owned land, there has to be at least 3 acres, maybe more. So all in all, it's quite a block of land.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Well, while we're waiting for that plan, hopefully to come up, maybe it's time that we were trying to hold off on doing test pits, and I know we always do them ahead of time, but maybe that's something we should pursue. I don't know if John has any recommendations on that. Should we try to do some test pits down there? I don't want to. A kind of a sensitive area.
You mean test pits where the proposed drainage structures will be?
Yeah.
Can you do any augering with a tripod that would be less disturbance, Mr. Romero?
Yeah, we don't get the depth that we want on that with those types of things. We can't really evaluate as well, but I mean we're up to try anything that would disturb the less. So we could look at that.
Okay.
So maybe we can work with staff on that, just see how we could do that.
Yeah, with the least disturbance.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Why don't we, I think we have some issues on the table. And of course, you don't have to have a quick and definitive answer tonight. I'm sure you know that. But maybe we should see, I think there's some people in the audience that may want to make some comments. And so if you simply, if you are there, you'd simply identify yourself and state where you live, then you can feel free to start talking.
Larry, before you go to the public, can I just make a comment on the mitigation?
Yes.
So the Wetland Protection Act doesn't really have provisions for doing mitigation besides replication. So theoretically, if the commission were to conclude that this was a limited project, you could potentially waive strict adherence with the regulations. However, I believe that this is going to require a 401 water quality cert, and I don't think the DEP waives the replication requirements for a 401 water quality certification. So I'm fairly certain that this will require wetland replication by the DEP, no matter what the Conservation Commission decides.
What,
So
John,
just keep that in mind.
Do you know what triggers the 401 water quality cert?
It's wetland filling associated with a subdivision of land. Now, I know Phyllis is going to say this isn't a subdivision, but it's filed as a definitive subdivision, so I suspect that the DEP is going to consider it a subdivision.
I see.
But it's probably worth contacting Mary. Maybe contact DEP and get a clarification.
Yeah, I do agree with you that the issue is going to be the 401 water quality certification. That the language in there does talk about wetlands replication. They only require 1-to-1 replication, whereas your bylaw requires 2-to-1. But we would be talking to DEP about that requirement and whether they would be willing to consider a land trade instead.
Is it also a possibility that we record a document that says no more land would be, or no more wetlands would be disturbed in lieu of a water quality certification? I believe we've done that before.
Yeah, I think we have to look into that and talk to DEP. That is one of the options.
Okay. And I see
Okay.
the plan is up. And
Okay. So Mr. Romero, would you like to?
Yeah, sure. Our subject parcels in this application are known as 29-75-1. That's one of the lots. And across from that is 29-94-0. And between those two is Redmond Street, existing right-of-way for Redmond Street, which we are going to call McDonald Lane. Up above that is Raymond Road. It's coming from the right of the plan, and it goes all the way through over toward the left and into Fairfax Street. So again, that's a paper street. It's existing right-of-way. The parcel that we are offering is off of Raymond Road. On the corner of Raymond Road is also a Somerset, and that's 29-56-0. And I believe it's about 1.7 acres. That is land owned by Murray that he's willing to donate to the town for mitigation. And you can see it's adjacent to conservation restriction on lot 29-75-0 and next to the town of Burlington conservation land across the way. So that whole area would be a large conservation area. So that's what we're offering as mitigation. That's it.
All right. That was very helpful to put this up.
Yeah.
Barry, I have a question. This is
Sure. Go ahead.
So
Please.
that area, that 29-56-0, is that wetland?
it has wetlands and upland. It hasn't been surveyed, so I can't tell you how much wetlands. I think there's a lot of wetlands on it, but there are also uplands.
So on the GIS, it's like probably 75% wetlands.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. This is helpful. All right. Let's go back to comments from anyone who is either in on the video or by phone. Would anybody like to speak? Please identify yourself. Go right ahead.
Hi, I'm Lynn Unsworth with my husband Jim Unsworth. We're actually at the end of Raymond Road.
Hi there.
Hi. And we have a lot of concerns, but just a couple in relation to what we're talking about tonight.
Sure.
Is filling the wetlands is disturbing as far as from an environmental point of view. I know that we were told that we couldn't put fences up within the buffer zone. We couldn't put any kind of fill when we were building to try and raise our home. Yet now you're putting in a huge amount of fill to get the 3,200. And we were told at the time that it would be damaging to the environment. Yet this is certainly a lot more fill than we had proposed years ago. So why would there be an approval of this and not an approval of a smaller amount of fill?
Well, I'm not sure we can address what the situation was years ago. I can tell you, and John, you can weigh in here, is what we're looking at is whether this project can be constructed to comply with the existing regulations. And there are certain requirements, and as you probably heard, there's quite a few hurdles to overcome here.
Okay.
So one of the provisions in the regulations is you're allowed to fill wetlands to create a road to reach an area that's buildable. So say you had an island of land out in the middle of wetlands, the state regulations allow you to actually fill wetlands to reach that land. And that's sort of what they're doing here. Basically, to get to the buildable portion of their land, they have to go through wetlands. So unfortunately, the state makes that a special case where you could actually fill more than 5,000 square feet of wetlands theoretically to actually do that. In this case, they're doing considerably less though.
Okay. So, and I guess my next question is that when this fill is brought in and these homes are put in place, I mean, I obviously don't know drainage as well as you, everybody has been discussing this evening, but we're envisioning the water backing up even more towards the Raymond Road area and behind our home. And would we have guarantees that we would not be having flooding? Because I know years ago, there was some talk of putting some type of stoppage to do some building at Fairfax, and it was stopped because people were saying that there would be a huge amount of flooding to homes. So our concern obviously is if there's filling and property there, where is all, and trees are gonna be brought down and taken down, where is all that excess water gonna go?
Very good question. I think, Mr. Romero, unless you have a very quick answer, should we put that on the list for a more detailed answer at the next meeting?
Yeah, I think we'll have more information for the next time. Like, I really do want to get that soil testing done. That will help us to show how we can mitigate the runoff. And I will say that, in my opinion, I think with the improvement to this roadway, I think we're going to help at least the runoff on Raymond Road itself.
I think what a detailed answer to their question would probably be is what's going to happen to all the water running down the road. A little more descriptive answer probably, and we need to give you some time to craft that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That's a very good question. Okay, is it Ainsworth? Is that your last name?
Unsworth.
Unsworth. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry about that. Okay.
That's okay.
All right. Thank you for
No,
your contribution.
Ainsworth is that street off Raymond Road.
Okay, Unsworth. Okay, got it. Thank you, ma'am. Okay.
Thank you.
Next is anyone else in the audience for this one?
Actually, do you mind if I just add one more thing? So
You
I know
certainly
they
can.
mentioned wildlife. We have a wildlife camera out there, so if you want to see all the wildlife that lives out there, we can certainly send you some videos.
Actually, I'd probably enjoy seeing that. Thank you.
There's a lot of them. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
I see Mr. Donahue. Is he still on? He sent a letter around about water running down Raymond Road. But I don't.
Hi, this is Mark.
He doesn't seem to be. Oh, okay, good.
I'm having a little.
Would you like to say something? Or
I mean, fundamentally, most of the things that I was going to say were covered by Bill. With the amount of water that comes down Raymond Road, and this happens 15 or 20 times a year.
Yes.
This isn't like a once a year occurrence.
Right.
Because there is no, especially since, I mean, I put it in my letter, but since they did the work up in Simons Park, rebuilding the wall there and changing the drainage structure for all the baseball fields, all of it comes down Raymond Road now. So literally every drop of water from the top of the hill all the way down, from the top of the hill in Simons Park, all the way down to Church Lane and all the way down Raymond Road. So the quantity of water that we get is truly stupendous. I mean, I put a 6-inch pipe from the front of my garage underneath the garage floor to my property. And I know Jim can probably tell you how far it shoots because he could see it from his stoop, but we get 15 feet of water coming out of the end of a 6-inch from the water coming down the street here. It really is like a fire hose. And so, right now, all of that water goes down into the wetlands there. And, I know for a fact that, from, my front yard, I can look into the wetlands and, the year, there's standing water back there. I mean, Al Fay said that when they were kids, they used to ice skate back there. And then, I look at that house at number 5, and I look at the elevations involved there, and I don't see how you can build it and not have it be underwater, adding a large amount of fill to make that go. So those are fundamentally my worries about it.
Okay.
I look at the back side of the house there at 139 or 140. And it's the water has to go somewhere.
Okay. All right. Thank you for those comments. I'll just point out, Mr. Donahue, that you sending around that video kind of drove the point home very nicely about how much water you have. Let me throw out one more question to add to the list. If the town puts in drainage, have you thought about how the provision of this project would interface with putting in drain to handle water on Raymond Road? Or would there be any synergism or any accommodation that this project needs to have? I'm not asking for an immediate answer, but I think we ought to put it on the list to. Okay.
Can I just say in general?
Yes.
A stormwater system along that whole road, we could piggyback it onto our system, and yeah, the whole thing together would get that runoff off the road and into a pipe. That would control the surface runoff into people's driveways. Yeah, that'd be a great improvement.
It would for the surface runoff, but still the total volume of water going down into that wetland is not going to be changed.
No, it's not. No.
Of course, if you rush all that water down to somewhere in the middle of the wetland, you actually may find the water elevation rising too.
But that's where it goes now, though. It all goes down there right now, and we're trying to control it by putting it somewhere instead of just letting it go off.
That's true. That's true. All right.
We're not
So,
increasing.
Are there any new issues to be brought up before we do a very quick summary and continue the meeting? All right. Could we list the issues quickly? And I'll list what I have. I have that the wetland line on the part of our staff and commission needs more definition. That's number one. Just interrupt if it's wrong. Bill brought up the elevation of the basement relative to the water elevation of the house. And he also brought up the elevation of the storm tech relative to the elevation of the wetlands. And I echoed the same concern. So that's three things. The fourth thing is that the project team will give some thought to how to get the test pit information with the least disturbance. That's number four. Number five, Gail, you mentioned about I think you mentioned about the riparian area, and I'm not quite sure what the implication is, Gail, of that comment, but.
If there's any disturbance in the buffer zone for the,
Of that area. You cut out, Gail. I'm sorry.
Sorry, whether there's any disturbance in the area?
Okay, in the riparian area. Okay. And then number six was the mention of 1.7 acres being donated and whether that can be done as compensation of wetlands replication requirement, specifically noting the 401 water quality cert. So that's number six. The project team is going to look into that. Number seven, how would water be handled on a descriptive basis? All that water, how it's going to be handled by your project? That's number seven. And number eight was if subsurface drainage was put in, the way I would say this is, what does your drainage have? What design of your drainage need? How does your drainage need to be designed to accommodate water coming out of a pipe if they put in drainage? You know, and all that water goes into a pipe and it comes out at the bottom. What's going to how's it going to interface with your drainage? And what do you need to do anything for that? I don't know if that's likely, but I think Mr. Donahue will probably continue to request that something be done, and Mr. Answorth, Mr. and Mrs. Answorth from the town. Is there anything else?
I had one more item. Gail had asked us about the function of the riprap trench along the roadside and asked what would be the velocity of the water in that area.
A riprap trench along the...
It's along Raymond Road extension. It handles water.
And then
Okay.
also, yeah, the velocity and the effectiveness of any kind of final filtration.
Okay.
Okay, so I have about 9 items as I kind of aggregated them. Okay, anything else from anyone? All right, so what I'd like to do is request a motion to continue the hearing. Clearly, I think more information is needed so we can talk about this on a more detailed basis. Could I have a motion to continue the meeting of
So
this
Larry,
hearing?
Larry, to be clear, you're continuing 3 hearings, right?
Yes. Could I have a motion to continue all 3 hearings to January 14th of 2021?
So moved.
To Indra.
Don, second.
All right. Dawn, how do you vote?
Yes.
Gail? Indra,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
chair votes yes. The meeting on the road, Redmond Street roadway, as it's called, and number 4 and 5 Redmond Street is continued until January 14th of the new year, 2021. Okay,
Thank you very much.
all
Thank
set?
you.
Yep.
Stay healthy.
If
Thank
people
you.
can still hear me, thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, the pictures just reappeared. The pictures disappeared, now they reappeared. All right, and your happy faces are all back. All right. Phyllis,
Good night. Happy
good night.
holidays.
Good night, Phyllis.
Good night.
Good night, Mr. Donahue, Mr. Answorth. And everyone else is already, they're gone.
Good luck.
All right. Have a good night. Have a good night, folks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Next on this is continued public hearing. We have proposed revisions to Burlington Stormwater Management Bylaw governing erosion sedimentation control. It's for amendments to the general bylaw, Article 14, Section 6. And this is as a result of trying to come into compliance with our stormwater management permit for the town. Is that correct, Eileen? Can't hear you, Eileen.
Eileen's having computer problems. So basically, we're continuing to keep the public hearing open. The warrant article has been submitted to the town clerk for the January town meeting.
Sure.
We've received letters of recommendation or approval from the planning board and the Board of Health, I believe. And we'll be appearing before some of the other appropriate committees now that the warrant article's been submitted, land use, I think bylaw review committee. So that'll all be coordinated through the selectman's office.
Right. The biggest issue that I heard was on the Board of Health. They were concerned about standing water, their normal concern, standing water and rain gardens in things that hold water in residential settings. Is that correct, John?
That is correct, yes.
And they offered a concern that our regulations are different than their regulations regarding how to design stormwater stuff or our preferences. And they were concerned that there would be some rerun. One of the members of the Board of Health was concerned that there would be some rerun between going to Board of Health, back to Conservation, then back to Board of Health, and causing sort of a waste of time. I think that's what he was saying. But the reality is that, is it correct to say, John, and I didn't say this during the meeting, is it correct to say that you and the Board of Health staff and Eileen try to coordinate pretty closely to avoid too much back and forth?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. I meant to say that during the meeting to alleviate that concern, but I forgot to say that. All right. Okay. Do we need to do anything on this then?
No, we'll just keep the public hearing. Well, you should vote to continue it to the next meeting. We'll keep it open right up until town meeting.
Okay. Are you presenting it to the Board of Selectmen before they come?
At some point, Eileen submitted the article to the selectman's office last week for the deadline, and then we'll coordinate it through the selectman's office.
All right. Eileen, would you let us know when it's going to be heard by the Board of Selectmen?
She will. She can't. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for sign language, Eileen. Okay. Could I have a motion to continue the public hearing for the proposed revisions to the Burlington Stormwater Management Bylaw governing erosion sedimentation control to January 14th, 2021?
So moved.
So moved. Second, Don.
Okay. So Don, how do you vote?
Yes.
Gail,
Yeah.
Indra,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
chair votes yes, that's 500. The stormwater management regulations are continued. Okay, that hearing. Next on the agenda is planning board comments. Do we have any planning comments for the planning board?
Well, it's up to you. So the planning board is reviewing the Redmond/Raymond Road subdivision. It's probably preliminary, a little too early to give them comments. I'd like to see more of the information that David comes back with before we provide comments to the planning board. This is going to be kind of a protracted process, I think, with the planning board and the Conservation Commission. So it's probably early to give them comments at this point.
Okay, all right. You can obviously have a verbal with Kristen.
Right.
All right. Subcommittee and staff reports, updates, anything? Anyone?
No.
Upcoming meeting, I've said it enough times, January 14th is the next one, and January 28th of the new year. Anybody glad to say goodbye to 2020? Okay, other business? Anything else? Okay, then I guess could we have a motion to adjourn the December 10th, 2020 meeting of the Burlington Conservation Commission?
So moved, Indra.
Second.
Second, Bill.
Yeah.
Okay, Dawn, how do you vote?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. The meeting's adjourned. Everyone have nice holidays. Stay away from the virus, I guess.
Stay healthy, stay safe, have a good night.
Yes. Happy holidays to all of you.
Same to you all.
One thing before you sign off, wait, before you sign off, did anyone happen to see, this is not related to conservation, did anybody happen to see that the wastewater count of virus at the